and send the link to Alicia so that she can put us on the screen in the world when they're ready for us.
Excellent. And then now, you make me host now?
Yep, as soon as I get this done and I've got that link. Rolling nice and slow here. Hey, there we go.
Kathy's always complaining about my screen, always looking up at my ceiling.
Got it. We are being live streamed. YouTube. Copy the link. All right. And now you are the host.
Excellent.
And so, yeah, if I'm looking this way, that's where my screen is in the world. So when I can see they're ready to throw us up, then we'll jump on and do our thing.
Excellent. So how often do you do these? Is it monthly? Are these monthly or? So
we do actually every single week we have a meeting. Okay. This is our main state meeting where we kind of go, whatever the topic is. We do a contract class, a compliance class, and a KV core, which is our CRM training class, the other 3 Tuesdays. So this is the big meeting. And then we do others. And agent development on Thursdays and masterminds on Mondays and all that sort of stuff. So to try and maintain a little bit of control and supervision as of I've got Morris with me, but just 2 managing brokers for 800 agents. We've got to make sure we give them plenty of opportunities, and that we each do 40 outbound calls every single week to the different agents on check-ins and all that sort of stuff to make sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if somebody does step out of line and the commission has to get involved, I can say, look, this is what we do to stay on top of our 800 agents.
And you will have that direct feed hopefully by March.
Yep. Which should be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Oh. I usually run the slides for the state meetings, and Morris is trying to run the slides now, and he just got some Google page up on the screen. So
oh, okay.
We're having all kinds of technical difficulties, and there we go. They got it. All right. The dog decided he wants to be in Susan's office instead of mine today. So.
Would it have been easier for me to just become an avatar?
Maybe. I don't know.
You could have just told me I would have been an avatar.
No, I was like, no, it's Zoom. I go, yeah, let's figure out this live stream Zoom thing. So now I can do this all the time. This is
Excellent.
only the second one that I've ever
I'm
done.
the guinea
When you
pig.
said it, we did one other and it didn't go so great. So I figured out the live stream piece, and I think we've nailed it this time. So
Excellent.
yeah, there's still an announcements. We're going to be up here in about a minute or two.
Okay, we're all good.
All right. We're about to be up here. Okay. She's posting a live stream link now.
This is so interesting.
And I was listening in, so they got that up there on the screen. That's awesome.
Nice.
All right. So we've got a little bit of a delay here, but just so you see and know it's going, we'll go ahead and get rolling here. Everybody, we have the pleasure today having with us Mark Fisher, the Chief Executive Officer for the Indiana Association of Realtors. Mark came on board with us at IAR. You're just past the 1 year now, Mark, now, aren't you?
Last September, that's correct.
All right. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Mark here over the last little bit. I have to say I was a little bit apprehensive at first. I'd known Carl Barron for quite some time, a friend of the family. My dad knew him quite well, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect with the change of leadership. But I can tell you in the time that I've experienced Mark to now and working with him and getting to know him, the state is in very, very good hands. And I'm very hopeful for the future of the Indiana Association of Realtors. So,
thanks, Dave.
Mark, if you would go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background and how you came to be in the position that you're in.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave. Glad to be here today. Excited to address the group and have a little chat with you. So I did join last September after spending 17 of the last 18 years working in economic development and public policy for the Indy Chamber, which is a Chamber of Commerce and a regional economic development organization. I started there as a graduate student intern, left
Wow.
and came back through a merger. I was leading the Indianapolis Economic Development Corporation called Develop Indy. And we merged them into the chamber. I spent about 2-3 years at Develop Indy doing zoning, permitting, land use policy, redevelopment, real estate redevelopment projects in Indianapolis. And then after the merger, I came back over to the public policy side and ended up being the chief policy officer. So I worked very, very closely with the local realtor organization, MyBor in Indianapolis, and really got to know the commitment that realtors show to their communities, the influence that they have, and I had worked very closely with our senior vice president of government affairs, Maggie McShane, and the legendary Carl Barron on local government reform earlier in my career. So I knew the organization and how highly respected and influential, some may say powerful, the IAR is at the State House. And so when I found out that Carl was retiring, I decided to throw my hat in the ring and was very fortunate to be selected, and have just really enjoyed the past year. Traveled a lot around the state of Indiana, meeting with our locals, meeting in brokerage firms, and so it's been a whirlwind, but a wonderful year, and it's just great people. We're about 21,300 members all across the state in every community in the state of Indiana, and it just is an incredible experience to be able to work for and with so many great people.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we're really glad that you did throw your hat in the ring. And we're also glad that you're able to speak to agents all over the state without having to get in your car this time.
Yeah, that's nice. I don't mind it.
All right.
I've got 4 young children, so windshield time is a luxury, but this is great as well. So.
Awesome. Love it. Well, I know you've got a little bit to talk to us about the governance structure, some of the changes that IAR has gone through. So why don't you go ahead and let the group know what we have in store with IAR?
Absolutely. I'm going to pull up my presentation and I will start from the beginning. And I guess, Dave, you're gonna, if you have any questions as we go through the presentation, just interrupt us at interrupt me at any time. So
yeah, I'll be monitoring the chat over here. So if you do have questions, throw those in the chat for us.
So if you've not been to your realtor building in downtown Indianapolis, we own an 8-story building right across the street from the State House, very prominent signage. So I can tell you that the governor and state officials and legislators know who we are and where we are at all times. Location. Right?
Yeah, this is not photoshopped, right? This is you're standing right there. This is an actual photograph of the giant realtor sign and the Capitol building right there.
Yeah, it's 5 stories. It's called legally non-conforming use because it was the old Harrison Hotel. So my zoning background is coming through. So this is the building, and we're proud to occupy it, and it is fully leased up as well. So
Awesome.
So as you know, Dave, we adopted a new mission statement for the Indiana Association of Realtors as we went through our strategic planning process this year, and really wanted to make sure that our members understood how we advocate on their behalf in the entire real estate industry, really advancing those ethical standards. So we do perform statewide professional standards outside of the MIBOR area, and really help our members succeed. But really, our members are going to succeed the most if we have thriving communities in a strong state of Indiana. So that's a quote from the legendary Carl Barron, that we have this special position, given our unique position in the state, to be really an entity that promotes thriving communities in a stronger Indiana, because that means we can continue to attract and retain more people buy houses, and we can continue to be a successful industry. So wanted to make sure that was reflected. So what we'll cover a little bit today, a little bit of IAR 101, how we serve our members, what members benefits that we provide to our members, and how we serve, and really how we work with the 3-tier agreement at the local level, the state level, and at National Association of Realtors. We'll do a little bit of market updates, and then outline some of the things that we're thinking about long-term, both in the short term and the long term. So
awesome.
We do have you mentioned the new governance structure. So that was great. When I was hired, they said, hey, by the way, you have a new governance structure. It's this is your current leadership. So Andy Rudolph from Evansville, still lives in Evansville, but now has a statewide job with FC Tucker. He's the president. Lynn Wheeler from Berkshire Hathaway is the president-elect. So that means she will be the president in 2023. And then Roger Lundy serves as the immediate past president. Immediate past president also serves as the treasurer for our board of directors. So as mentioned, the new structure, we have broken our region, our state down into 6 regions. Each region gets what's called an at-large position. So any person can put their name forth to be considered for the board. There's a process for that when the terms come up, but 1 at-large seat, and then one what's called regional company seat per region. And that is one of the largest, 3 largest companies within one of our 6 regions gets to nominate somebody from their management or ownership to serve on the board. And then we have an additional at-large seat for an association with more than 5,000 members. That is the MIBOR area in central Indiana. I think there are 12 counties. We also have 3 what's called statewide company directors. That is the managing broker or owner of one of the top 3 firms in the state of Indiana. And I am now speaking to the 2nd largest firm in the state of Indiana. So Dave, you are the statewide company director for eXp.
Yes, sir.
And then we have 1 presidential appointment, which is really interesting. It's they don't have to be a realtor member. We are always going to try to find a realtor, but it gives the president and the board an opportunity to bring in somebody with some special expertise. If we're really going to deal with a difficult topic that we need some very specialized expertise in, we have that ability to bring somebody in. So this year, with the new governance structure, dealing with a lot of the rental assistance and the eviction moratoriums in the height of COVID, Andy Rudolph decided it would be best if we had a property manager. And so Nathan Reeder from the Reeder Companies up in Munster is that special appointment. His dad was also a past president of IAR.
Served with my father. So yeah,
that's right. So this is the current at-large or regional company director makeup. So you can see in there with the 6 regions, how they are broken up. We have our statewide company director and then Nathan Reeder as the appointee, presidential appointee. These are the at-large regional directors across the state of Indiana. So these are people that put their name forth from one of the 6 regions. They do not have to be in management. Jennifer Parham from Lighthouse Realty was elected at the last board meeting to serve as the 2024 president. So the 2023 president-elect. So Jennifer will move up into leadership as well. So want to talk a little bit about how we serve our members, what our core functions are at the state level. And as I came in, chambers of commerce aren't federated, right? They don't have this 3-tier relationship, and it can cause a lot of tension. When I came into realtor world, this power of this three-tier relationship, it is just incredibly, it's just an incredible asset. And what I notice is we need to do a better job maybe at the state level of saying, here's what we are going to own and here's what we're going to do best. Here's what the locals, our local associations, this is what they're inherently going to do better than we could ever do because they're closer in their communities and closer to the ground in their own market. So really differentiating what we provide as a state association and how we support our local partners. In fact, the second line of our bylaw says our mission is to unite and support the local association. So it's been really great to get to know the other 24 local association executives across the state of Indiana and how we can better serve them. But from a state perspective, what do we own well? We own the legal, the risk reduction, and the transactional efficiency. We own education and professional standards, pro standards outside of MIBOR, advocacy and government relations at the state level, and how we support our local partners in their local elections as well. So that also comes with RPAC and the political activities. Data, something that we're really going to try to maximize more of is the data and disseminating our data and making sure that our members have ownership of that data and that they are able to really, we're going to tell a story with our data, but also open it up to our members so that you can be more informed and make more informed decisions for your business. And then statewide market messaging and communications, and we'll get a little bit into that. That's the number one thing I heard as I've traveled around the state for this year is we don't hear much from you. So we are correcting that, and we are trying to pump out really useful information in a digestible format. I know that our members are on the road a lot, and so we need to be better at communicating how our members consume that information. So here's what we provide. I mentioned the statewide forums. We have our legal library. The Realtor Defense Fund is a fund that we use to not just play defense, but go on the offense to make sure that we are promoting the Realtor brand value and making sure people know the difference between a Realtor and a licensee. Special mentioned professional standards. We have a leadership academy. I actually went through our leadership academy last year. It was a great experience. Our latest class just kicked off 2 weeks ago, and I'd encourage you, any of your folks, to take a look at that and consider participating in the leadership academy.
I'd love to see that too.
So our legal work. So we have 3 full-time attorneys plus 2 professional standards administrators. We provide the statewide legal forms. As we've surveyed our membership on the best, the highest, or the number one value they get, it is the statewide legal forms. We are very fortunate. If you have folks that work in other states, they may know that not every state has statewide legal forms, and it creates a lot of headaches. So that's something that we were able to get all of our local partners to buy into in recent years. So consistent, compliant transactions with the Indiana Code, Realtor standards of practice, and member input. So we update those forms on an annual basis. We have a statewide legal forms committee made up of realtors and attorneys that come together. We have this legal hotline. So if you're a managing broker or their designee, you can call that legal hotline. They won't give you legal advice. They'll tell you what the law is and what it says. And that is a huge benefit to our members. You can see they take between 5,000 and 6,000 calls per year. It's about $500,000 of savings to members. You don't have to call an attorney every time and pay their retainer or pay a couple $100 every time you want to talk to an attorney. As long as you're a managing broker, the designee, you can call that hotline. We actually use the feedback from our professional standards and from that legal hotline. It's amazing how quickly you will get a call on an issue, and then within a week we have 30 calls on it, and then we know something's up in the market, and we need to address that, and then we need to produce more communications and legal videos. But that legal hotline does give us almost instantaneous feedback on what's happening in the market and what we need our members are facing in their daily routines. We have our legal library, and then we are also anticipating the legal challenges to pro-competition, pro-housing business practice. We know the class action suits that are being driven in Missouri against NAR and local association of MLSs in Missouri. Those have the potential to have profound impact on how our members do business.
So just because those are in Missouri, we're not ignoring them because they're not in Indiana.
They're federal cases. That's right. They're federal antitrust cases. Plus, we have the DOJ. We had an agreement with the Department of Justice, and we had a consent decree. We made changes, and then new administration comes in and backs away from that. We're still, I know NAR is I hate to say suing the DOJ, but they are trying to force the DOJ to commit to the agreement that we all struck, and has decided to move forward with the changes that we all agreed to with the DOJ. From an education and professional development component, we own the RECP. It does about 50% of the pre-licensing education in the state of Indiana. But the nice thing is, now that we have this capacity with RECP, we are able to take that capacity and expertise and offer our member benefit continuing education. So you can get, don't say free because it's included in your dues, but it is a member benefit that you do not have to pay extra for. It's complimentary to individual firms that offer this, but we want to make sure that our members across the state have access and are staying compliant. We mentioned the Leadership Academy. We're launching a statewide young professionals network, and then we'll do something similar to this. We're going to be launching some professional development webinar series. Maybe not about the next issue. It's not continuing education or it's next transaction, but what is happening in the world around us, and how will it impact your business? Great. I did mention we had a goal of 33% of our members using RACP for some amount of continuing education. We actually blew past that. We had 52% of our members, and our next round of CE that is due May 31st of next year is already online. So you don't have to wait. Actually, please don't wait until like May 15th. But we've already put these online. You can access them at your leisure and finish your CE early this year. When
you've got a little downtime here, everybody, at the holidays and not as much is going on, this is a great time to knock this out. Not on June 30th. So I would encourage you to go and do this June 30th, here. That's right. While you have a chance.
We to make sure, because the continuing education is not just a license requirement, but it does speak to the professionalism. We're working to make sure that our members know where they stand on their continuing education. We want to make sure that their managing brokers know where they stand on continuing education. So we have a little project going with the professional licensing agency to create a direct data feed to make sure that our folks know where they stand and where they need to complete their CE.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
So knowledge is power. Member communications, again, I heard a lot that our folks didn't hear from us. So we have three new communication pieces. I'm so fortunate to have been able to bring on our new VP of Public Affairs. His name is Chris Watts. Chris was the president of the Indiana Fiscal Policy Institute. So he's got this kind of think tank data background, but is by far the best communicator and writer that I've ever worked with. And we've worked together for 18 years of my career. And so I was very fortunate to be able to bring Chris on board about 4 months ago. So you'll see stepped up communications. We have a general member capital and market goes out monthly. We have an inside AAR, which is Chris and I musing on the market, lots of statistics, legal updates, and then a managing broker advisory. And that the managing broker advisory is going to be on a kind of an as needed basis. Again, if we start to see get a lot of calls in the legal hotline and we need to do a new legal video, we want to get that out as fast as possible to managing brokers. We're also trying to make this as turnkey as possible for you, Dave, our the managing broker, to use our what we create in your meetings. And so we're actually investing in a audio and video recording studio in our building. We've got great content. Production value needs a little bit of a bump up. So more to come on that.
I love that. I believe it was Rochelle, but or no, it was she couldn't. What was her comment? She could not smile and speak at the same time. Right now,
yeah, right. So we got these great content, and they're just in the offices. So we're gonna up that production value, so you, our members, especially those managing brokers, are able to use the content that we're creating and to your own benefit. If you're not getting our newsletters, I've been in so many meetings and people are like, well, I don't hear from you. I'm like, are you getting our newsletters? And they opted out, or we know that newsletters can get stuck in spam filter. So if you add news@indianarealtors.com to your contacts list, make sure that you're getting our communication. Again, more charts, more data, more interpretation of the data, more storytelling, more legal updates.
Love it.
Government affairs and advocacy. This is, if everything else goes away, at the heart of it, a state trade association is a public policy and advocacy organization, making sure that we're advocating on behalf of our members, advocating on behalf of the real estate industry, advocating on behalf of homeowners. Homeowners don't necessarily have an advocate at the State House, so we like to play that role. Some of the successes we've had, property tax caps and that government reform. So making sure that we have accurate and predictable assessments. We don't want to mess with our assessment system, even though legislators are hearing, well, why is my assessment going up? Well, that's the market. And so we want to make sure that we have accurate assessments, that we don't see a rollback of that. We're going to protect the integrity of those property tax caps that have provided $400 million in homeowner savings this year alone. Property tax simplification, less paperwork. So they got rid of the mortgage deduction, but increase that homestead deduction, less paperwork for your folks. Defended against the anti-home buyer sales tax expansion to services. We actually engaged the IU Public Policy Institute to do a little impact analysis on what a sales tax and services would do to commissions, what sales tax and services would do to the home buying and all the services that go into home buying, and how that would impact prices. And it's a really powerful tool to have in our back pocket. We actually had a delegation day. So a region came in and for legislative delegation, we put this hearing right up on screen, and we did a little targeted call to action, and we had 432 calls placed within a 24-hour period. And the chairman of Ways and Means was like, Maggie, our lobbyist at the State House, please have your people stop calling us. So that really tells you the impact that you, our members, can take to protect your own industry. And so you'll be seeing more calls to action. We want you to know what's going on at the State House and how you can take a leadership role in protecting your own industry. And nothing scares legislators like a few phone calls from constituents. So
absolutely,
it's not, politics is not a spectator sport. We have to make sure that we have a seat at the table. Our involvement in political action. I know politics can be a dirty word these days, but I heard, you may not have an interest in politics, but politics will definitely take an interest in you and your job and your profession. And so we have to be politically active. We've raised, we're on track to hopefully raise about $1 million a year for this year for RPAC. That's split. Some goes to the National Association. A lot of it stays with our locals, but it really allows us to engage in a very meaningful way with legislative races. And that ensures that we have that seat at the table. In fact, One of the biggest things that came out of the last legislative session was the creation of a housing task force. We're going to go through some data to show inventory, even though in this kind of cooling market, long-term inventory is going to be a huge challenge. And so I've actually participated in 2 meetings. Thursday will be the last meeting of this housing task force, really focused on how do we drive inventory. So it's the builders, it's Habitat, it's the mortgage bankers, and we as a realtor association have a seat at that table. And really we're given the opportunity to lay the groundwork and really kick off that with a lot of our data. We have to have the most trusted and accurate data, and we do that. In fact, the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority has a housing dashboard on their website. If you want to check that out, that data is ours. They are using our data because the government trusts our data above all other data.
That's really saying something.
Yeah. So, so what do we do with that data? This is Chris. Chris loves this line: "If we don't tell our story, someone else will." And you can see some of the articles that right when Chris came on board, this Indy Star article popped up. "Worrisome Indy housing market is overvalued as study finds." Well, we dig into that story, and like the last line of the whole story is, "Maybe now's not the greatest time to buy a house." Well, I'm sure people would have not liked that advice before, the mortgage rates went up as fast as they did. But we looked at this, and it was a study out of Florida Atlantic University using Zillow data. And so Chris and I promptly called this reporter and sat down with her and brought like stacks of data and said, if you ever need to tell the Indiana housing story and you need data, just call us. We're the resource for you. So we've made this big investment, statewide data collection. So every day we pull from all the MLSs across the state. So it's timely and it's accurate. We've built this data warehouse at the Indiana Business Research Center so we can pull other data points. So publicly available data. One of the coolest things we did, we went to the post office and the IRS and got all this data on where people are moving to and from and how much money they're bringing or taking with them. And so we can tell from across the country where people are moving to different counties within Indiana and how much money each county is losing or gaining with those incomes that they're bringing with them. So wow. It's pretty interesting data. So owning our data creates this credibility with the media, with public and policymakers. That's why the Housing Task Force asked us to kick this off. Moving to on-demand data tools. So we're going to provide our members access to our data. You'd be able to, we're going to tell that story for you. We're going to interpret the data, tell a story with it. But if you don't trust us, or you just want to, you're a data geek like me, and you want to get in and dig around our data yourselves, we're going to do that in a system called Tableau, which is a data visualization software. So again, making us the market experts with the most accurate and up-to-date data tremendously helps our advocacy and public policy efforts.
And that's going to be available, that data is available to the members as well, right? To be able to use in their own marketing efforts and that sort of thing as we go forward.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. We're going to move away from Showing Time that used to put together our monthly reports. We're moving to Tableau Public. We're going to, when we release it, we'll put it up on our website behind the member tab, and our members will be able to access.
So then again, for all of you out there that have not done this yet, indianarealtors.com, and make sure that you know your login, your NERDS number, last name, log in, get that done so that you can access all these awesome tools.
Absolutely. So what does our data say? I don't have to tell you all are closer to it than we are, but certainly inflation has taken a hit. We saw, it's kind of weird. We thinking about 2020 and 2021 were very anomalous years. So even with a slowdown in our market, would be like a normal market, like a 2019 market, right? But certainly inflation, interest rates, and a lot of this just economic uncertainty. Are we in a recession? Will we see layoffs? Nice thing is, unlike a lot of the coast-based areas, again, why we're trying to use our data to tell our story of the Indiana housing market is a lot of the stories you see in the media are driven by coast-based narratives or very, very hot markets that do a lot of this, when Indiana is much more stable. We have an imbalance between supply and demand, and that's really held sales steady and prices steady versus the national trends. But I mentioned, even though in the cooling market, long-term, our housing inventory is not keeping pace with our economic development efforts. It's not keeping pace with our talent attraction retention efforts. And we, unlike basically every other one of, our neighboring states, continue to grow. So long-term, we need to make sure that we are addressing that what are those pinch points that are stopping or inhibiting more inventory from coming online. So here's the September housing markets, and this is, again, why we need to make sure that we're using localized or state-based data, because location is everything, as you all know. So some markets, while the vast majority of markets have seen a dip, not all markets have seen a dip, or it's not as severe or steep. And also some of these smaller markets, a change of 10 transactions in a month could be very, very dramatic. So you want to look at not just the percentages, but that raw data as well. So mortgage rates jumped to over 6%. They're starting to fluctuate. They went up over 7%. And I think what we saw earlier in this year was kind of this chatter about interest rates going up, and a lot of people entered the market or went through a real estate transaction to get ahead of those new interest rates. So we saw very frenetic activity in the beginning of the year, and we really started to see it cool down in June, July, and August and September. So home sales fell 13 below where we were in September 2021. So that is the largest year-over-year gap of 2022. So we're seeing that really slow down. The brakes are being put on, but we're still seeing a lot of activity. The median price has dropped, but the increase in mortgage rates has actually eaten up all of that savings. So,
okay,
people don't buy maybe the total value of the house; they buy that predictable, monthly mortgage. And so, even though the prices have come down, the mortgage rate increases have eaten up that savings. So, year to date, we're only 6% below our record-setting pace in 2022. But the summer months, again, you started to see that slow down, finish about 9% below 2021. U.S. home sales dropped 18%. So we're about half that drop in the state of Indiana. Again, not great, but it's much worse in other markets. I'd hate to be Boise right now. Median prices again have dropped, but remain 7% above where we were September 2021. So it's still above where we were even in this cooler market. Prices have dropped 6% since June versus 7% nationally. So year-to-date sales remain above 2019 despite these 2 quarters of negative GDP and demand-crushing monetary policy. We've seen 2022 home sales are still ahead of 2021 at the higher end market, above that $250,000 mark. We maintain and continue to advocate that we need inventory at all price points, but there certainly is a huge drop off and that below 150 or below 200,000 mark. Some of that's just price inflation. Some of it is people aren't as mobile; they're staying in their homes longer. But a great way to create inventory at those lower price points is to create more inventory at the higher price points and give people that opportunity to level up. So we will continue to advocate not just for the lower price point, the starter homes, but really creating inventory at all price points. But it's very important, though, as we do this analysis, that as communities are looking to increase their inventory, that their end price points and that their job market, their labor market, and their wages will sustain. We're seeing the weekly trends, so you can see we're starting to come in below 2021 and 2022, still largely in line with Indiana's pre-COVID growth curve, though. Again, all of this stuff will eventually be on our website that you can dig around. So if I go back a couple slides, this the chart on your left, the Indiana, that's broken down by our local associations. This is a Tableau product. When you go on the website, you'll be able to actually look at economic regions, look at local associations, or break it down by county as well. So you'll be able to kind of look at different levels of the data to make more informed decisions.
And as we've talked many times, right, the way that we set ourselves apart and we justify our value, right, or show our value to our clients as being that market expert, and they're just laying it right out there for you to be that market expert. So
Absolutely.
Take advantage of these tools.
So I mentioned why we're seeing this housing demand. Well, we've actually grown 300,000 people since 2011, but we haven't had a year-over-year inventory increase since 2014. So if we're successful in economic development, successful in attracting, retaining our talent, we led the Midwest. That means we're going to have more demand. But some of this is basic economics, supply and demand. If you're not keeping up with the supply is not keeping up with demand, you'll see this rapid price inflation. So we've seen in 2021, we grew about 14,000, a little over 14,000 residents in Indiana, and net earnings are growing. So our net earnings outgrew the U.S. in 2021 by, it's not an insignificant amount. So demand is the silver lining, but supply is the storm cloud. I love Chris and how he puts these presentations together.
I love Chris too. He's great at what he does, and he's bald. So yes. He's really one of my favorite people in the building.
He's bald with facial hair, right?
Yeah.
I don't know many bald people who don't have facial hair, but
hey, you got to prove you can grow it somewhere.
So this is a decade-long drought, limited inventory. Have I mentioned we have an inventory challenge in the state long term?
I think I may have heard that somewhere.
But this is now, I think this has really gotten the attention of legislators and policymakers. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation, your local economic development professionals, are now singing in unison what Lawrence Yun, the National Association's economist, has been saying. If you have no houses, you can have no people. Without people, you have no jobs. And so we are starting to see in communities like South Bend, who just had 1,800 jobs announced in the new electric, battery manufacturing plant. Mm-hmm. John D'Souza, one of our past presidents, has told their economic development professionals, we're going to be selling houses in Michigan because we don't have the inventory in Indiana. And so it will really start to impact economic development. The IEDC, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation, had a program called READY, Regional Economic Acceleration and Development Initiative. It was a $500 million pot of money that they set aside to have regions come together and create these strategies to increase talent attraction and retention, to increase innovation and workforce development. A third of that, they got $1.5 billion in requests. A full third of the requests were directly housing related. Another 10 to 15%, they say, was related to the infrastructure that is related to the housing market. So we're going to continue to work with the IEDC, work with legislators to make sure that when the Speaker of the House actually, he came to a RPAC major investor breakfast we had before the September stakeholder event, and announced to the group that he fully intended to take some of that $6 billion surplus the state has and put it towards another round of READY. So we know communities are going to have to come together. We want to make sure that housing has a prominent role in that scoring, and that housing maybe even set aside specific funds directly related to housing and economic development. So you can see a lot of those price points. You can see available home inventories declined 80% in recent years. In 2022, monthly inventory has averaged only 8,000 homes. So that is how many homes are available at any time for sale. You see it going back to 2011, we had over 50,000 houses listed at some point. So you can see we're starting to find that equilibrium, which means that the prices will continue to go up. Indiana's inventory decline is a national trend. We have not, essentially, we never recovered from the housing crisis of 2008, 2009. Builders, a lot of builders were wiped out. Yep. A lot of communities that had these builders that could do 25, 30, 40 houses. A lot of those folks went out of business. So now they've got custom home builders that can do 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. And so not every community in the state is benefiting from national players that are able to build at scale. But this isn't, it isn't just an Indiana problem. It is a national problem. We're about 5 million housing units short of where we need to be based on population trends. Sales rise, listings and overall inventory fall. Listings have flatlined, starting to see a pullback of listings as people that are in sub 4% mortgages may not be willing to put their house on the market. But sales are steady. Supply and demand pressure is building before the pandemic. We like to say the pandemic didn't catalyze a lot, but it certainly accelerated this inventory challenge. And we saw our listings drop faster than sales. So again, this will be a longer term issue for us. More charts. New construction, again, mentioned that we haven't recovered from the Great Recession, and this is the chart that shows it. So residential population in Indiana continues to climb, where our new housing starts have really lagged. And it has that direct impact. I mean, this is the chart that really caught the attention of legislators when I presented it at the Housing Task Force. It's undeniable, but that our lack of inventory has had a huge impact on home prices. Limited inventory driving prices. Again, the biggest a lot of the housing inventory is actually increased, and the higher price points are held steady. That biggest drop again is below that $150,000 mark, which, if you think about, average earnings for a Hoosier is $52,000–$53,000 a year. Say you
we need that $150,000 house.
We need that $150,000 house, and communities have to build the type of housing that their economy will support as well. Supply challenges aren't going away. Early upturn in the inventory crash this summer, and new building permits are down 30% year to date. So the builders are pulling back faster. Again, I think some of the stuff that's coming out of the Housing Task Force is how can we take some of that uncertainty, upfront uncertainty and cost that builders deal with the infrastructure. So it could be extending new lines, it could be building out water and sewer treatment capacity, or it could be remediating brownfields to create more lot. But they'll say lot availability is a huge challenge. Local regulations continue to be a challenge. So we're thinking long term, what does it look like when those, when people are in those 4% mortgage, sub 4% mortgages? How likely are they to move? But people still have life events, right? And they're still going to move. They're still going to need to buy houses and sell houses. Mention the threat to economic development. That story from South Bend. They're very concerned that they just don't have that. So when you have a local community, an economic development project, the state goes out and competes, offers all these incentives, and then they go to the locals, and locals saying, we would love these jobs, but where are we going to get the people and those jobs? And from my background, economic development projects stopped being totally about your tax structure or your regulatory structure, access to highways, and it shifted very, very quickly to, will I have the workforce I need to make my company successful? And so housing has a direct impact and a huge threat to our economic development efforts. So some of the things we're thinking about going forward, we're going to have this Housing Task Force have a series of recommendations that come out of it next on Thursday. We fully expect that this will be included in several bills this legislative session to increase that inventory. We're looking at revolving loan funds for infrastructure, homeowner repair dollars, but we will start from the premise of do no harm. Don't mess with the assessment system. Don't mess with the property tax caps. Avoid anti-homeowner sales tax on real estate transactions or transfer fees. Encourages residential development, transparency in local zoning and building codes. We want to use a carrot and not a stick. Some communities really like their zoning codes, but is there an incentive for them to look at looking at stuff like ADUs and higher density? Thinking about the priorities in the professionalism with record membership. The average tenure of our membership is actually, they've been in the industry 7 years on average, and the majority of our membership has actually been in the industry less than 8 years. And so a lot of our members have not seen a buyer's market, and they've seen this great seller's market. And so we're going to make sure that we're keeping pace with that and helping to educate our members, working with our brokers. So thinking differently about the cooling market, thinking about professional standards and licensure issues, and really highlight the difference that between a realtor and a licensee. Unfortunately, sometimes it's like Kleenex, where every tissue is called a Kleenex, but we know that that's not the case. So we've partnered with Indiana Public Media, we're partnered with Inside Indiana Business to really promote professionalism and distinguish a realtor from a licensee. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
All right. Well, I've got one. So when it comes to inventory, what are some things that we're pushing for, that we're trying to get the locals or the legislature to adopt in order to help alleviate some of that pressure?
Yeah, so there is not going to be a silver bullet. There's not going to be one thing that's going to address it. We have to also recognize that there are profound demographic shifts happening in our state. We have 92 counties. Over half of our counties lost population in the last census, the last decade. And so how do we help communities thrive and reimagine themselves? But we're looking at zoning codes. Again, if the state is going to be pumping out money for economic development projects, that housing is part of that mix. And it's not just an afterthought, but it is part of the upfront conversations. We want to see those carrots. If we're going to dole out that money, maybe you have to, as a community, think about your zoning codes and promote density to make sure whatever housing project you want to deliver matches the economics and what wages will support in your community. We're going to look at that, removing some of that upfront risk and cost to builders through infrastructure, either a grant program and or a revolving loan fund. We're going to look at the capital stacks to bring on more inventory. We're okay with bringing on more rental inventory. Good renters make good home buyers. We need more units. And so the state created a state-based LIHTC credit to leverage more federal dollars. But what goes into that capital stack? Can it be brownfield remediation? Can it be historic rehab tax credits? Can there be homeowner repair dollars? Are there going to be demolition dollars to clear and create a new canvas for communities? And so we're kind of going in with it we didn't want to just highlight a problem. We wanted to come with solutions, but we will start with that do no harm.
All right. I've got one question here in the chat. The best way to access the data on the website, how do they get to a lot of this data we were just talking about?
Yeah, so if you go to indianarealtors.com, there is a member link that you then click, and it gives you access to everything behind the paywall. Luckily, as a member, you all pay. So again, know your M1 number, and you'll be able to access that data on our website.
I still can't get used to M1 number. I still call it a nerds,
I know,
nerds, yeah, you're not, your National Association of Realtors member number is what you need to know to be able to log in there. So
yes.
All right. Any other questions that we have from the group?
Also okay. Make sure that you're receiving our communication. So accept us as a trusted contact, and you'll make sure to get our newsletters, because again, we're going to be pumping a lot of this. We're not just going to give you the raw data. We are going to give you the raw data, but we're also going to use our in-house capacity and expertise to also interpret that data and tell stories. So you are more informed, and then you can be that trusted advisor to your clients.
Help us tell the story. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right. We've got a little bit of a delay here, but I don't see. And that was news@indianarealtors.com, correct? That's the address that is coming from?
Yes.
Okay. So be on the lookout for all of those communications.
And if you have questions, always feel free to reach out. We'll try to do our best to be as responsive as possible.
And let me know, if you have any, I'll be happy to take those along. We did talk a little bit about the VIP form that they can, the volunteer information profile that you can fill out. That's also available at indianarealtors.com. So I highly recommend any of you that are looking to get involved, please fill that out and let us know what you're interested in, because they will use that as they fill out committees at the state level.
We do. We use that list exclusively. With the new governance structure, we shrunk our board from 47 to 17. We want to do more. As you may have heard our president say, we don't do committee work at the board meeting. So we want to make sure that we have very active committees as well.
Love it. All right.
All right.
Well, with that, thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate you and your time.
David, it was great.
To you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be seeing you here. I think we've got a meeting coming up here in a couple of weeks.
We do. Yep. Absolutely.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Good. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you.
All right.